Some people reject evolution because it requires physical death before sin, which is seen to be against the biblical and extra-biblical evidence. I have a video coming out arguing that physical death and mortality are a part of the pre-fall reality. But in this comment, you also bring up the Book of Wisdom, or the Wisdom of Solomon, which gets into a discussion about how Jews in Paul's context thought about death and mortality, which is what this video is going to be about, which is to set up the discussion about Genesis and Paul's view of death and mortality. I'll put some scholarship and citations on the screen, but essentially the Second Temple Jewish belief was that mortality and death were part of the pre-flood reality, that death was at least possible for Adam. Oftentimes citing Genesis 2:7, Adam being made from dust and having a dusty body as evidence for this, which makes sense given the fact that in the biblical and extra-biblical texts, death and dust are often associated with each other, and so is dust and mortality. You see this in the Wisdom of Ben Sira, or Sirach, the Book of Sirach, which is also accepted by Catholics and Orthodox Christians as scripture alongside the Wisdom of Solomon, or the Book of Wisdom. You see this in Jewish Thanksgiving hymns. Now, with regards to the verse that you bring up from the Wisdom of Solomon, there are two possibilities. Either this is a contradiction in the text, because this passage would be talking about physical death as not being made by God, and yet later on Solomon, or who's supposed to be Solomon in the book, goes on to say that he, like Adam, is mortal and so on. Or the death is not a physical death. Kelly makes the argument that Hades is the real death where the unbelievers go, according to the text. This and other work that I've done on the Wisdom of Solomon would indicate that the text believes that the soul is pre-existent and eternal, whereas the body is perishable, corruptible. Now, Paul, based on 1 Corinthians 15, would agree with that assessment of the body, although there is no idea of a pre-existent soul in Paul, which, given that the Wisdom of Solomon has some Greek philosophical influences that don't necessarily seem to be in Paul, that makes sense. As for the first quote being Romans 5:12, as I said, I have a separate video that's going to be coming out on that, but this video will set that background Jewish context that Paul is writing in, which is always important for biblical interpretation. So thank you for the comment. Make sure to comment your thoughts on this subject and follow me for more content like this.